Well, hello. Hey, again, why are we doing these videos? Just a quick reminder that the Christian walk is a 7-day endeavor, not just a Sunday morning thing, 7-day endeavor. So we're making these little videos, hopefully that you'll be encouraged, you'll learn something from the life and times of 100 famous Christians. All right, so we're going to do the life of John Calvin. Some of you might have heard that name. If you wanted to come up with one sentence to kind of summarize what he taught and thought, it would be live for the glory of God. John Calvin was a very influential theologian. Now, don't get bored because you heard the word theologian. He is an influential theologian who was consumed by the majesty of God and taught that the primary purpose of life is to glorify and enjoy Him forever. His life demonstrates that a deep understanding of God's sovereignty can motivate us to serve with courage and humility, even in the face of adversity. He was born on July 10th, 1509, long time ago, in France. His father was a lawyer and a significant influence on John's early education. He initially pursued a degree in law at the University of Orleans, where he was exposed to the idea of humanism and the Renaissance. His academic journey also included studies in theology and the humanities. But in the early 1530s, Calvin experienced a religious conversion that led him to embrace Protestantism, influenced by the writings of Martin Luther, who I'm sure we'll do one day, and other reformers. Following his conversion, he faced persecution in France, prompting him to leave his homeland. All right, so he was part of the Reformation. Again, we'll talk about that someday. The theological development, his theological development. In 1536, he published the first edition of his major theological work, Institutes of the Christian Religion. This foundational text was intended to provide an organized account of Reformed theology and was aimed at both theologians and lay people. The Institutes underwent several revisions and expansions throughout Calvin's life, ultimately becoming a comprehensive guide to Reformed doctrine. His theology is characterized by several key concepts. First, the sovereignty of God. Calvin emphasized that God is sovereign over all aspects of life, including salvation, creation, and all human affairs. He believed that God's will is ultimate and unchangeable. All right, you're going to see that played out in the other things that he taught. Total depravity. He asserted that human beings, due to our original sin, are incapable of saving themselves and are entirely dependent on God's grace. Unconditional election. This is where it gets a little bit controversial for some. He asserted that human beings do unconditional election. Calvin taught that God has chosen certain individuals for salvation, irrespective of any foreseen merit or action on their part, a doctrine often referred to as predestination. He believed in limited atonement. This is the doctrine that says Christ's atonement is sufficient for the elect, but not intended for all humanity. Irresistible grace. He believed that when God extends grace to the elect, they cannot resist it and will inevitably come to faith. He also believed in the perseverance of the saints. He taught that those who truly are saved will persevere in faith and cannot lose their salvation. In 1536, Calvin moved to Geneva, a city that was undergoing significant political and religious upheaval. He initially stayed briefly, but returned in 1541 after a period of exile. In Geneva, he then became a leading figure in the Reformation. Again, this period where they tried to reform the Catholic Church and actually sprung Protestantism out of it. Calvin's approach to governance was distinctive. He advocated for a theocratic system where civil authorities and church leaders worked together to enforce moral and ethical standards based on Scripture. His reforms included establishing a church council composed of clergy and lay leaders to oversee moral conduct and discipline in the community. Wouldn't that be interesting to have a more theocratic government? Implementing strict regulations regarding public behavior, including dress codes and the observance of the Sabbath. So he's pretty hardcore. Promoting education, principally in biblical studies, leading to the establishment in the Academy of Geneva, which became a center for Reformed thought. His influence extended beyond Geneva as he corresponded with and mentored reformers across Europe, including Scotland, France, and the Netherlands. His writing and his legacies, in addition to the Institute of Christian Religion, Calvin produced numerous commentaries on nearly every book of the Bible, which contributed to his reputation as a biblical scholar. His writings advocated for the importance of Scripture as the ultimate authority in matters of faith and practice. His legacy is profound and far-reaching. Did you know that Calvin, from Calvin and Hobbes, was named after John Calvin? No joke, it's really the truth. I'm not making that up. You can look it up for yourself. So his legacy was far more than just the Calvin and Hobbes cartoon. His theological framework laid the groundwork for various Protestant denominations, particularly those in the Reformed tradition, including Presbyterianism. His ideas on church governance influenced the development of congregational and Presbyterian forms of church government. His emphasis on education and moral responsibility helped shape the social fabric of communities influenced by his writing. Again, he was a really huge impact. His model for disciplined Christian life and a focus on community ethics continued to resonate in contemporary Reformed circles today. He was a pivotal figure in the Protestant Reformation, whose life and teachings have left a mark on Christianity. Through his theological insights, church reforms, and a commitment to the authority of Scripture, Calvin shaped the course of Protestant thought and practice. If you know the weight of that sentence, that's something. His enduring influence is evident in many churches and theological movements that trace their roots back to his work. Calvin's vision of a faithful Christian community continues to inspire believers to pursue a life of faith, discipline, and devotion. One of his most famous quotes is, "Our hearts are idol factories." This reflects his view on human nature and the tendency for individuals to create idols, anything that takes the place of God in their hearts. It emphasizes the importance of focusing on God and recognizing the many distinctions and false gods can lead people away from true worship and devotion. Thanks so much for hanging out for 8 whole minutes on the life of John Calvin. Take care. God bless.